आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on The Debate. Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
The show tonight, Donald Trump says that he is the acting president of Venezuela. I will argue on why today's world is about who's weak and strong, not about who's right and wrong. And at 9 o'clock tonight, what have you been waiting for? I'm going to take on Blue Machine AI. Let's see who has the upper hand. So it's a very special edition of the program this evening because we're going to be playing out Arnab versus Blue Machine AI at 9 o'clock tonight. I won't give you any clues on what happened. You can see it for yourself. I can only tell you there are no edits. Ladies and gentlemen, to the main point tonight, why are we surprised when Donald Trump says satirically or otherwise puts out a social media post saying that he has become the acting president of Venezuela? Ladies and gentlemen, he says, I am the acting president of Venezuela and I've taken over in January 2026. Why are we surprised when he does that? Didn't we anticipate it? Didn't we expect it? What we've not understood today when we express surprise at this kind of comment made or claim made by Trump is that the world is now divided not between right and wrong. The world, the contemporary world, is divided on the lines of who is weak and strong. And there is no defense for being weak. You cannot claim I am right, but I am weak. Stand with me. The fact is nobody will stand with you. Which is why I agreed with Jeffrey Sachs when I spoke to him a few days back when he said, Arnab, I think that India should quit the Quad. I personally believe that security alliances like the Quad cease to have any strategic importance for India. It has become more cosmetic because every nation is working only in their own national interest. There is no binding capacity of the Quad anymore. We should consider what Jeffrey Sachs said very clearly. These are the days for building capacity. India should very quickly build military strength, military infrastructure, and I'm a strong proponent of at least doubling our military spending, increasing the compensation for our defense forces, take on the necessary, not burden, but decision of investing more in militarization of India. You militarize India, you have a secure future. Your economics will be fine if your military strength is strong. Imagine America is going ahead with planning to annex Greenland, claiming to be acting president of Venezuela, threatening Iran, doing whatever the hell they want, while they run $38 trillion in debt. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the language. And why is this happening? Because they are militarily strong, not because they're economically strong. America is not economically strong. But that said, Trump goes ahead and abuses and insults Greenland and the people of Greenland every day. He says this is a country that has 2 dog sleds in its defense. He says, do you know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. And in the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines and Chinese destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen. Fact is, whether Russian, Chinese or American, everybody is annexing territory. This is the new age of neo-colonialism backed purely by military capacity. We are already in the middle of a new age of high-tech military colonialism. It has already begun. People are annexing parts of the world. Global carving of territories has begun to happen. There is no point in being a weak or even a relatively weak country, or even a continent, for example. If you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't build a military capacity which can take on, counter, and even if required, threaten America or threaten China, then you will be run over directly or indirectly in many different ways. Ladies and gentlemen, look at Europe. Look at Europe. Look at the way in which Europe has messed things up by believing in a military alliance. Europe thought that if push comes to shove, the Americans are always there to stand for them. And that is why Europe, over several decades, became a vassal state, which is why when Trump moved into Venezuela, even though the British probably disagreed, Keir Starmer had to say that the UK has long supported a transition of power in Venezuela. Was this a transition of power? It was not. It was annexation. But Keir Starmer couldn't say anything. Even Macron, even France couldn't say anything. France, Macron said, has neither supported nor approved the method used, which means not take a position. Germany, all the German Chancellor could say was that the legal assessment of the US intervention is complex and requires careful consideration. Even the EU has said that Maduro lacks the legitimacy of a democratically elected president. Even Giorgia Meloni said that this is not the right way to end authoritarian regimes. But none of these countries or blocs, UK, France, Germany, EU or Italy, could actually take on America or say that, no, this is wrong. What you have done is wrong. And because they could not question what the Americans did in Venezuela, and because they did not build any capacity, any military capacity for themselves, they reduced their spending on defense till Trump forced them to increase the spending on defense. And they almost gave up European territory for multiple American bases. They thought that the Americans would come and defend them. Today they are defenseless vis-a-vis Ukraine. They're calling on Trump to save them. Trump knows that he holds all the cards. And why should we be surprised that with all this lopsidedness in favor of Trump, that he's playing his cards? He's a businessman. He's going to play his cards. Which brings me to the moot point. This is the era of strength, not morality. This is the era not of right and wrong and morality and lectures. This is the era for brute strength. It is the same point, the absence of strength, that has led the Europeans to a situation where they cannot even question what the Americans are planning to do on Greenland. Keir Starmer of the UK says Greenland belongs to its people, but can Keir Starmer do anything? Germany has said the US is moving away from allies, but can Macron actually stop Trump if he says I'm going to have Greenland? Neither can Germany, neither can Italy, neither can any of these big powers, neither can Japan. Fact is that Europe has given up its sovereignty to Trump, which brings me back to the point. Ladies and gentlemen, when Jeffrey Sachs says that we must quit the Quad, he's not actually saying quit the Quad. He's basically trying to say, I think, that we must not depend on security formations. We should only and only and only depend on ourselves, on our assets, on our strength, on our direction, and on our thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the big story here, we are going to have difficult times, but if other countries have their priorities, we should also have ours. I call today for two fundamental points in the context of the geopolitics that's happening around the world. One, an urgent need for a decade of militarization. Ladies and gentlemen, conventional, non-conventional, nuclear, non-nuclear, space, technology. This is not the time for gradualism or status quo as far as our military strength is concerned. We need to target where the Chinese are and get to at least 80% of that, not 60% of that, or maybe equate them. If that requires sacrifice from the people of India, let us say so. I think if you take a poll on it, every Indian would be willing to sacrifice something or contribute to make us a top-level military power that can take on China can take on Russia and can take on the US. That is the first point. Also then, openly, a decade of deep commitment to the reawakening of a new nationalist spirit in this country. A strong nation with a strong military can never be targeted. In this new and dangerous age of new colonialism that we are seeing in the Trump era, we must refuse to believe that Trump is a nightmare that is going to go away if he loses the midterm elections. My prediction is, if Trump goes, there'll be another Trump. If Xi Jinping takes on and moves on Taiwan, we will be saying Xi Jinping is actually worse than Trump. So this is an era, however bad it sounds, of a Trumpian approach. I feel terrible saying that, but there is an approach, however bad, however immoral, that Trump represents. The Trumpian approach can only be met by a militaristic and nationalistic response. Let's debate.
A bizarre post. American President Donald Trump has declared himself the acting Venezuelan president. And this isn't new. Trump says America must take over Greenland.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? Either like
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
And then he goes on to warn Cuba. Deal now or face cut off after Maduro.
Cuba's an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about, because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country.
Iran is also on his radar. Negotiations are on, but military options are on the table.
Yesterday, the leaders of Iran called they want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States. Iran wants to negotiate, yes. We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up. But we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called, they want to negotiate.
From Venezuela to Greenland to Cuba and Iran. An unmissable pattern of overreach, of dominant hectoring. Is this American dominance or a presidency playing dictator diplomacy?
Okay, let's open this up. General Bakshi from Delhi, Saurabh Shukla from Washington, Jean Wendell Hansen, senior researcher at the Aarhus University from Copenhagen in Denmark, Tatiana Kukareva from Moscow, Vibhuti Jha from California, he's Republican, at least has been till recently. Alexander Shajan is a Republican, at least has been till recently. Nowadays nobody knows. William Hendrick is joining us from New York. He's a well-known political commentator. Tatiana, if he does move on Greenland, will Russia sit and do nothing? Like Russia basically, allowed Venezuela to happen, objected to it, of course, but didn't do anything. There was no military response. There was no real response. What about Greenland? What is that also up for grabs, you think?
Well, I think, Arnab, the biggest question is, why do you think that Russia was supposed to step in terms of Venezuela?
Well, they took over they took over your oil tankers. There were shadow ships, of course, ghost ships, but they were not technically Russian, but they were Russian.
Arnab, not Russian oil tankers. I'm sorry. The one oil tanker that was under a Russian flag only got the temporary permission in the end of December.
So that's sorry. Okay. That's technical. But my point is on Greenland. William Hendrick, will he do what he's threatening to do on Greenland, and what likely response is going to come?
My name is Willem Buiter, actually,
Yes,
not
I'm so
Willem
sorry,
Hendrik,
Willem.
but
Yes,
never
so
mind.
sorry. I didn't know that.
I think it is unlikely, but not impossible, that the US will militarily occupy Greenland. After all, Greenland is a semi-independent entity within the Kingdom of Denmark, which is part of NATO. And I think the European powers, while I think very meek in the past, have made very strong and explicit statements about the integrity of Greenland.
No, but Putin says,
but
Putin says that you should not take Trump's statement as just rhetoric. He is actually quite serious. Putin has spoken about what Trump plans to do on Greenland. I think Putin takes it seriously. Therefore, it's a real possibility. General Bakshi, it's a real possibility. I mean, everyone on the panel seems to be in denial about it. What if he moves on Greenland, General Bakshi?
Oh God, no, Arnab, we're not in denial. It's just that. Look, objectively speaking, Greenland is not something you would occupy militarily.
No, but I'm very objectively, the fact is when he says we want Greenland, he is also saying that there was always an idea of taking over Greenland. And Putin actually said that there was an agreement made between Germany and Denmark. And in 1910 over Greenland, the Americans could not get it. The deal failed. So we have a new carving up of territories. I actually think unless the world decides to take on Trump, he will move in on Greenland because he's testing the waters. Nobody did anything on Venezuela. General Bakshi.
Okay. Arnab, declining great powers are prone to hubris, imperial overreach, and overstretch. Well, Trump is doing a triumphalist war dance on Venezuela. The simple fact is Venezuela is not a done deal. It was a tactical success, but strategic failure. You just captured Maduro and his wife. His regime is still very much in power in Venezuela. His interior minister is threatening to go guerrilla, threatening to fight. There are his guerrilla, groups who are already gone into the forests. Try and get a single drop of oil out.
But he's already seen that. But General Bakshi, But General Bakshi, look at the other way. The Colombian president capitulated, called him because, Saurabh, the Colombian president called him. I see that as a capitulation. Greenland, he's getting more aggressive, right? He's starting a new campaign on Iran. He may or may not do that, but I think on Greenland he's serious. Who can stop him if he moves on Greenland? NATO can't. Russia and China will look the other way because China will say, I'll take on Taiwan. I want you to remain quiet when I do that. So you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Saurabh.
Yeah, Arnab, at the outset of the program, you spoke about the Trumpian approach. I want to give you a ringside view of what's happening here from Washington, D.C. What is really happening is that President Trump has adopted something which is a new realism, if you may ask me. He's following the playbook of Clausewitz and even our own Kautilya of Arthashastra, where he's making sure that the military power is, in a sense, your ticket to global ascendance and also making sure to send out a message to the world. I'll give you a brief on what these Trump, social media posts are all about. They're part of a very, very strategic, I would say, overreach that he conveys to some of his allies, to other countries in the world that helps him with a so-called social media-led strategic dominance. That's also a part of a well-thought strategy. That's one. Second thing, by talking repeatedly about whether it's Greenland, whether he wants to, or do an overreach on Latin America, what he's trying to tell some of these leaders is that either you come on our side, you make sure that the interests that we want are met. Otherwise, I'll take resort to other measure, which is obviously military measures. And obviously, he has proven once again that the military might dominates in 2026, and that is going to redefine the global geopolitics from here on. If you see what's happened, he has pulled back from 62 international organizations. So clear message to the world that what dominates is your military power, your military strength, your strength.
But he's also challenging NATO. That is understood. But he's challenging NATO. NATO can do nothing. Who can stop him? Let me go across. Let me go across to Dr. Hansen in Copenhagen.
I tell you, he is also dominating the AI race.
No, but I get that. But my point is, Dr. Hansen, let us realistically, Denmark cannot take on America apart, and then only depend on NATO for support. But NATO was so supportive of the American action in Venezuela and in Iran that NATO, I don't think, will say anything to stop Trump in Greenland or come in defense of Denmark, maybe some diplomatic noises, not less. How are you viewing it? Is this looking real to you, a possibility of stepping in of the Americans?
Yes, but probably not the most probable one or the plausible one. I think that you're right. That might is indeed on its way to get to right, and that or be the legitimacy for to have right. But I think that is I think that is probably not what is happening right now. Actually, I think that that Trump has succeeded in drawing Greenland and Denmark from each other by making it possible for the Greenlanders to negotiate with the United States since the negotiation table have opened up, and that I find is very interesting. But behind it all, of course, there is the military might, and I don't reject that. I think that if it comes to the military element, I think that the one possibility that NATO has is to make some kind of troop stations in Greenland in order to make some kind of. How
can they do that? See, Dr. Hansen, I respect what you're saying out there, but strategically it's not making sense. I have everyone on because NATO had made itself militarily redundant over the years. Once NATO was...
I accept that. But France anyway has offered to place troops in Greenland. They have, the Danish government has refused, which shows that the Danish government actually does not very much believe in anything else than a diplomatic
question
solution.
Here would be we would have to watch this out. I don't know, Vibhuti. Do you think, Vibhuti, that NATO will send boots on the ground in solidarity with Greenland and Denmark to take on Trump? Would they do that, Vibhuti?
Thank you, Arnab. I personally feel that NATO can't survive without American support, and it is very important for NATO to realize that it is only. I'm sad to say this, but this is the only war members club. And you know who are the people who make up the war-only club. And Europe is responsible for a whole lot of flashpoints around the world. So what Trump is doing right now is setting the clock correctly. Because there is an element of that where you need extraordinary measures in extraordinary times. That so goes the saying. And this is what is important for everybody to know. I'm not talking about Greenland. I'm talking about Venezuela, for example. I think many people, the European NATO, not condemning that is purely driven by an ideological factor. And that factor is about capitalism, freedom versus fascism and socialism. That also is an issue that we must not ignore. I mean, I for example, I told somebody else Yeah, that's what is important for everybody to understand that. The Europe's silence is part of a connivance that somewhere along the line, the communism and fascism must also decline.
What about Russian silence? What about Russian silence?
Russian silence is absolutely agreeable because Russia, and as Stephen Cohen had once said, that Russia and the United States are the two most powerful nuclear powers in the world. Forget about destroying each other. They have the ability to destroy the whole world, and they must talk to each other. And Stephen Cohen, a New York Democrat, had said that on this matter, he's totally right in talking about it.
Is it possible then, I'm just putting this theory out, is it possible that we're not reading something here? Because the whole rationale of Trump invading Greenland, what does he say here, General Bakshi? He says, see, Russia is evil, China is evil, I'm good, I'm going in, right? So he's saying that if I don't go in, Russia or China will take over Greenland. Okay? Yet the same Trump administration and Trump abandons that logic when it comes in the context of Ukraine. Trump justifies Greenland control by saying, if I don't come in, the Russian or Chinese are going to dominate there. That endangers my American security, right? But in Ukraine, General Bakshi, he is pushing for rapid concessions to Russia, including, he's telling Zelensky, give in. Why are you not giving in? Give the territorial concessions. He's lost the area. So he's rewarding Moscow's aggression. He's playing third party, but he's fighting for Moscow rather than counter Moscow. And at a macro level, the way I look at it is, General Bakshi, he's going to be quiet if Russia demands territorial. He's going to be Russia's advocate in Ukraine. He expects Russia to be inert or look the other way when it comes to Greenland. And maybe Xi Jinping expects a return favor because he's committed in his last statement on Taiwan. So maybe he expects a return favor. We're going to see this territorial carving out. Do you think, General Bakshi, I'm reading it wrong?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, Arnab, the simple fact is it is a multipolar world order.
Yeah.
Where strong powers like Russia, like China, and of course the so-called superpower United States will be predominant in their own backyards. And they will avoid taking on the other in their respective backyards.
Yeah.
You see, America is having second, third thoughts about intervening in Taiwan, about intervening in East China Sea, South China Sea, Senkaku Islands. They are saying their allies must bear the burden. They must lead the charge. They must act like Ukraine if they have to, if they want the Americans to fight the Chinese. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. They will just give nuclear cover and they will provide, sell weapons to make a profit.
No, I'm saying
but
that...
But he's not intervening. I don't see...
This is a new situation, General Bakshi.
In Taiwan. Similarly with the Russians. Similarly with the Russians.
What with the Russians?
The understanding is that I take care of my backyard, you take care of your own.
Yeah, no, but
Greenland
Denmark
is more or less an extension of
Denmark,
the American
but Denmark, one minute, this is a new era. Quad is going to be irrelevant because NATO is going to break down. Denmark is a NATO member, right? If Russia and China won't attack Greenland because they won't open up a front with NATO, but it's going to be a situation of America attacking a NATO member. That's going to be the end of NATO.
This is why there's not going to be an attack.
That could spell the end of the NATO alliance.
Again, we're talking about resources here. Come on. Greenland is about Arctic oil resources. It's very simple. It's all about the oil. It's all about the money.
It's also about sovereignty. It's also, isn't it about sovereignty? Okay, Alexander. Alexander wanted to add in. Yeah, Alexander?
No, I'm saying it's not just about the oil. You know, you have to see the geographical location of Greenland is where it is. You know, it makes it essential for the U.S. national security. You know, that is the whole issue. When China and Russia is becoming more powerful, when they become more the nuclear power nations, you know, it's essential for the United States.
No, national security is a canard.
National security.
It's not it's a canard. No, it's a canard. You take that, Tatiana? national security argument? I don't buy it.
Of course I'll take that. Come on, there are two huge, already discovered, basins around. I'm looking at the map right now. There are basins of oil around Greenland, and of course it is about Arctic exploration. There's a lot of the Arctic, but Russia's exploring. We're exploring our basins. There's a lot of exploration going on in the Arctic, and Trump wants in. This is all about the oil. It has nothing to do with national security. And no, Arnab,
so will
I'll
Russia move back?
Will
Russia allow it?
No, Tatiana, let me ask you this. Can I ask
our
you a
own
question?
oil to explore. It's not
Can
a
I
problem.
ask you a question, Tatiana? So, do you agree? Do you agree there is a missile threat in North Atlantic for the United States of America? Do you agree with that or no?
Do I agree that there is a what?
There is a missile threat. There is an attack. There is a threat of attack in the North Atlantic as far as the U.S. is concerned. Is that right or wrong?
Absolutely not.
How can you say that when Russia is not too far from the U.S.? When you look at the map, look at the geography, Russia is not too far from the U.S.
Because that is a conspiracy. Come on, that's again, we're talking about a conspiracy about the nuclear conflict between the two powers.
No. That's not the conspiracy. When Arnab talks about the entire chaos across the globe, yes, we have to play an offense. This is an offense.
I think we're not reading something here. I come in here. I think we're not reading something right here. I want to go back to Saurabh. See, let's look at things, what's happening. We are being naive here. Here's a theory. We think, we must ask ourselves tonight, why is Putin playing the force mobilizer for Trump's Greenland threat? Why is Putin saying, oh, it's a real threat, it's a big threat, it's not rhetoric? I've never seen Putin do that. Why is he doing that? He's aggravating it because I believe there's a quid pro quo between Russia, America, and maybe even China. I mean, they're all going to carve out the spoils of different regions between themselves, and it's going to happen in 2026. That's my view. Mark my words, it's happening. When William is coming in, William and Saurabh, and then William on the right. Yeah, Saurabh.
President Trump, what he's doing, I will repeat it, as I said earlier, is neo-realism. He's a deal maker. Even on Greenland, I can tell you from informed sources, the primary approach is that can we strike a deal? Can we give them financial incentives? Can we buy Greenland off in whatever way possible? So that's the first approach, because he wants to make sure that the strategic assets and oil, one of the panelists was saying that it's all about oil. It's about oil as a strategic commodity because that gives you power. It's about power play to dominate the global center. That's what it's all about. And every country is trying to do that. What Trumpian approach is to make sure that through military means, through economic means, by acquiring strategic assets like oil, he wants to dominate. And he's also made it clear that he wants to focus largely on Western Hemisphere. He wants his allies.
How do you assume Western Hemisphere today?
They share the burden.
How do you assume Western Hemisphere? He could try the same thing everywhere else. You see, the earlier it was for territory. Today, I agree with you, it's for oil.
I don't see that happening purely for strategic reasons.
Okay.
And you and me both have studied strategy, and I'm giving you a ringside view from here. I don't see that happening because he also has a domestic agenda lying ahead of him. Already there are advisors within White House who are telling him that you need to focus on the domestic agenda now because 2026 midterms are going to be very, very
important. With China can say the same thing. Let's get GD Bakshi on the left and William on the right. William, China can say the same thing, that Taiwan is a strategic threat for us. And Americans will have to give it likewise.
But the reason Russia is sort of quietly supportive of America's threats to Greenland is that both Russia and the US today are examples of hemispheric neocolonialism. Right? Trump considers Greenland to be part of the Western Hemisphere. And sure, the oil and the rare earth are important, but it's territorial. It's the Monroe Doctrine. And Putin is exactly the same. Russia, in fact, has historically stronger claims on Ukraine than the US has on Greenland, which has no claims on it. So we must see this as examples of hemispheric colonialism that are never gone
I take
away.
that. Now I want to quickly move to India, because I always like to bring in an India angle in this. Jalbakshi, you're watching this closely. Quad is becoming irrelevant. NATO is going to break up. I think this should be a time for us to make the sacrifices, double our defense infrastructure, right? Supply chains, and prepare for a new wave of annexation around the world.
It is long overdue.
Yep.
Arnab, it is long overdue. We lost a decade in the Congress era of a military build-up. Today, our Air Force is down to 29 squadrons, man.
Yep.
The Pakistani Air Force is 25 squadrons. And the Indian Air Force has to deal both with China, Pakistan, Bangladesh. You need a 60-squadron Air Force. It's now time that we'll have to step on the gas, make the sacrifices, because it is the currency that the world will respect is military power.
If America is not, if they can move on Venezuela,
get your soft power.
If they can move on Venezuela, General Bakshi, if they are making eyes at Ukraine, taking on NATO, taking on Denmark, I absolutely see them taking over St. Martin Island in Bangladesh, building a military base there, right? I absolutely see them. The American deep state have been supporting certain groups who want to carve out a Christian nation, which has parts of Myanmar, parts of Northeast India, parts of Bangladesh. I absolutely see them trying to consolidate their deep state assets in our neighborhood. Unless, and we're not doing a deal with them, unless we have the military power to tell them to back off. Right, General Bakshi? So things are not going to be slow in 2026. I think it's moving very fast. Without any warning, shots fired.
Indeed. Indeed, Arnab, indeed. Arnab, the simple fact is, as I said at your conclave with the military, that the time has come for us to repeat 1971, restructure subcontinental security. All that we had achieved in 1971 has been undone by the CIA and the ISI with their colored revolutions in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Nepal. Attempted colored revolution in Ladakh. And like you very right outlined, Arnab will have to react strongly. And in 1971, Khan was the darling of, much more than Asim Munir is the darling pet of Donald Trump. And yet, we went in for the jugular. We broke Pakistan in two. Even when America sent the 7th Fleet, we were able to create the new nation state of Bangladesh despite American military intervention. The time has come to
now they are going to push
that.
hard. You saw the US Commerce Secretary again going back from an Indian perspective, Saurabh, to bring in a strong Indian angle in this. US Commerce Secretary said, we are so angry with India because Modi did not call Trump. And he said this. He said Modi did not call Trump.
Anab, are you going to discuss about Sergio Gore's press meeting?
Sergio Gore is saying, who has a direct
you talk about
President Trump. He's spoken about. Can I speak, sir? Just allow me. You go by what Sergio Gore is saying, who has just arrived as the new US ambassador to India. Already there's a call happening on the India-US trade deal, and India has already been joining Pax Silica. So I think these are positive things. And
things. The fact is, we can't be like the Europeans. Sorry. See, one minute. Let's not get too excited about the trade deal. I'm not excited about a trade deal with America because Alexander, I just say because Europeans were forced to swallow an unfair trade deal dictated by the White House.
You don't have to be excited about it, but we cannot forfeit the fact that Sergio Gore is trying to, work on this trade deal he himself said there is a meeting is going to happen tomorrow. Can we just ignore that? We cannot ignore
I'm not
that.
ignoring anything, but I'm not ignoring anything.
And Pax Silica is a very, very important thing because you will be debating against AI. It's all about AI. So I think it's a good.
Come on, don't give me that distraction. It's about milk. It's about milk. It's about dairy products. It's about fisheries. It's about agriculture. We can't open that up to the Americans. Saurabh, let's not. You can't open up dairy, fisheries and agriculture for political hot potato.
You talked about what Ludwig has said.
India's national interest, I can tell you that. The trade deal which is being negotiated will be in the national interest of both the countries.
We'll see.
That is what
we'll see, but I don't think Sergio Gore can get Prime Minister Modi to move fast on it. If Prime Minister Modi doesn't think
compromise on national interest.
Yeah, but you can't accept a lopsided trade deal. Now, one point is here. When with India, it's all I'm just clear. This is about Trump and trade. India, huge market. Prime Minister Modi not giving in. In this present situation, Vibhuti, sitting where you are, in this present situation where America is getting desperate, $38 trillion in debt, bad situation in the economy, they need the energy, they need the reserves, he's got to show a few wins, he wants to be a third-term American president and he's determined to change the American Constitution to do that. He will do everything. If he can try to take over Greenland, he will change it. He will say, listen, I didn't get 2 consecutive terms. You got the rules wrong. 2 consecutive terms are not. He'll do everything to surprise you. Trust me, he's going to do it. Now, in that situation, India holds back, Vibhuti, and says, the way you wanted Sergio Gore is not the way we want Bakshi on. What are the Americans going to do? Are they plainly going to sit out?
No, the point here is very important, Arnab. Thank you very much for bringing the Indian perspective to the whole thing. I have always believed that India and the United States, Trump and Modi have so many commonality of purposes. Trade is one big thing. And I had said when Prime Minister Modi came here that instead of the trade being $80 billion, it's up to $200 billion, that that's what they must negotiate. Trump knows the significance of India. And I think this is very appropriate time, as you mentioned in your opening comment, get your priorities right. And I think it is important for India to get its own priority right, that we have to do whatever it takes to, without buckling, without submitting, to hold on to their own requirements. I have myself said this on this show and a couple of other shows, that India must not relent on agriculture and dairy and those items of trade which are very essential for Indian consumers themselves. So keeping that into account.
But Trump is then going to be impatient. Trump is very impatient.
But very importantly, as you rightly said, fix your own priority. At the end of the day, Trump will respect the...
No, this is not about... He's going to have his main man, Sergio Gore, who, by the way, people were celebrating in the White House that when he was sent out because he was so unpopular with his own colleagues. But he is a hatchet man for Trump, right?
Yes,
Sergio Gore. He's a hatchet man. He's a yes man. He's not a diplomat. He's there to do Trump's bidding. He is going to go whining to Trump that the Indians are not giving in. Give it 1 month, things will change. Then, General Bakshi,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Then what happens?
I totally agree with you, Arnav. I totally agree with you, because that's what I told Mr. Sergio in his X, that his success or failure will depend upon the kind of authority and autonomy he has to make the strategic partnership and
the question is, how much leverage then does Trump have on us when we say no to him, when we keep him waiting?
At the moment,
General Bakshi, does he have leverage on us?
Yes, he doesn't have much leverage in India.
There is that threat that he is hanging out. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. There is the threat that Trump is hanging out of imposing 500% tariffs on India and China, Russian oil. So I don't think we should get into La La Land so easily. I don't see the trade deal coming up. And if the trade deal doesn't come through, it's not the end of the earth. The simple fact is that we have to strengthen our military muscle. We have to forget about soft power. We were told that the defining partnership of the 21st century would be the Indo-American partnership. And what did we get? Colored revolution in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal.
No, I think
all the Indian periphery on fire. What did we get? We are getting threats. We gave $1 billion for the GE 404 engines. We got stabbed in the back.
No, but I totally agree with you. That's the important point, General. If India were strong, if India were militarily strong, I'm sure Tibet would not have happened. We were not militarily strong, and I concur with you that we need our own. India needs its own strength, and that's where India needs to choose its military supplies, domestic capability, and foreign purchases to strengthen its own military requirement.
I believe we are entering
Tibet to happen again.
I believe, and I don't want to seem alarmist on it, but everything put together, 2026 will be the year of, I don't know, Dr. Hansen, I think it's going, let me go to you first. I think it's going to be the year of annexation and expansionist powers. And I think China, Russia, and America are all going to do that. These incursions will be legitimized. And it could be possible that at a very top level there is already an understanding between China, America, and Russia. You look the other way when I annex someone, I'll do the same in your case.
I think, can I?
Yes.
I think that you're right, because I don't see Greenland as a matter of raw materials. I don't see Greenland as a matter of military presence, because that is possible for the U.S. at present. The Greenlandic government has the possibility to negotiate with the U.S. in order to get the raw materials exploited. So that is not the question. I think that the question here is territory. I think that you are actually right. I think that annexation is what it all matters about. And that's what is making me very, very nervous as a European, because there are no actually arguments. This is about might, because all arguments can be, as you said yourself, can be argued against. It is inconsistent. The argument is inconsistent because there is a Russian threat, according to Trump, in Greenland, but in Ukraine he doesn't matter. So I think that you're right, that this is all about territory, this is all about might. And that is really, really scary from a European point of view.
Let me tell you this. As far as the U.S. is concerned, I know for sure, as far as the U.S. is concerned, U.S. is not about annexing. When the Venezuela issue has happened, it's all about securing the Western Hemisphere. Because the South American countries that surrounded the United States there is no consistent. The drug trafficking.
Don't like Fox News drug trafficking. Let me get Tatiana. And a year of annexation, you think?
Look, it's not about territory. It was never about territory, especially for the US, especially right now. It is all about the resources. Again, Greenland, there's 50 billion barrels, presumably around Greenland, that can be mined. There's also a lot of materials that can be excavated. And that is technology, that is the race for AI, that is everything.
Yeah, okay, that's good. But what will Russia do? What will Putin do?
Arnab, I'm sorry, Greenland is not Russia's.
Yeah, but you have no stakes there. You will allow it. You will allow it.
Arnab, Denmark has ramped up spending because they're preparing for war with Russia. Would Russia defend Greenland against the US in this situation?
Then it amounts to an understanding, Saurabh, between America. It's very convenient for Russia to take that position.
Arnab. Arnab, I must come in.
Sir, can I, sir? General Bakshi, sir, can I, for a minute? I would say not as much an understanding, but obviously, as I said earlier, a strategic neo-realism where you take care of your region, where you take care of your wider interests. And that's a great playbook in some ways, because, in an era where morality is not there, where you go by strategic goals and objectives, even India can play.
I take a last word from General Bakshi. General Bakshi, I've got General Bakshi, 30 seconds, sir. 30 seconds.
Go ahead. And,
Exactly. Arnab, the simple fact is, what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. India also needs to carry out, right to protect operations in Bangladesh to save the Hindu minority. We need to do something about the Siliguri Chicken's Neck corridor. And there is that Chattogram corridor on the other side. If it is okay for the Americans to grab hold of Venezuela, if it is okay for Greenland, it is absolute par for the course.
Okay, I have to close here. And as I close this very interesting discussion, right on time today, because we'll see the way things go. It's me taking on Blue Machine's AI. That's a fantastic enterprise AI, Blue Machine's AI. And I've had this 1-hour conversation. You can call it man versus machine. You can call it human intelligence and intuition taking on artificial intelligence. I thought I did rather well. I thought they were quite well prepared. I'm not the judge here. You judge which way things will go. Arnab versus AI, Blue Machine's AI, on the other side of a very short break.
For a quick breather.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सब जलजीरा मसाला।